What's up, guys? Welcome back to Comic Pull Spotlight. Once again, like I said, guys, there will be sometime books now. I'm gonna start doing something different with my reviews. Not just keeping them all in a bunch, but sometimes taking maybe three, four, you name it, books out that I feel that needs to get a spotlight. And we jumped to IDW, and I had to put the spotlight on this bad boy because I am a fan of this franchise. Been a fan for a long time. It's actually one of my favorite franchises in cinema. Um, Never get tired of watching the trilogy. It's one of my favorite time traveling movies, and that's none other than Back to the Future. Yeah. Back to the Future number one. I want to go on record and say that this was well deserved. What makes this even cooler, in my opinion, it's not a normal, it's not a, it's, this is written by the co-writer of the trilogies, Bob Gale. Bob Gale wrote the original trilogy movies. He he writes this. Now, basically, what is this? Is this new stories written, to continue the story? Because sometimes they do that with series, movies, and then they transition into comics and continue the story. No, what this is basically kind of untold tales of the franchise and maybe some alternate stories from alternate timelines, which I like. The artwork in this is very much pleasant. Uh, Bob Gale does a great job writing this. Not gonna lie, you know, like I said, for a guy who wrote the original movies, he does this smoothly. Now, this issue is broken up into two issues, two stories, and it all centers around Doc, Dr. Emmett Brown. Great Scott! Yes. Um, Basically, the first story is about we see Doc in the past with Clara and his sons Jules and Vern, named after Doc, one of Doc's favorite writers, Jules Verne. Uh, and he basically, what the first story is telling how Doc and Marty met, how they met, and we get an indication also in this is when kind of the timeline of Doc, like when he was around, like what years was he around, and things like. I mean, in one point it says he was his family, the Von Browns. Remember, if anybody remembers, they before they changed their name to the Browns, they were called the Von Browns. We get to realize how long they've been, of course, and we get to see kind of how, like, when Doc was a kid. He was a kid during the early 1912 or so, and we get to see what happens then, what happened to his family land, and what happened to how the little warehouse that we saw Marty go into the first time when he tried to use the amplifier, you know, when it was built and everything like that. But in this, the first issue, we get to see how Doc and Marty met. 1982, Marty was a young teenager. Probably, I think he was about maybe, I don't know, maybe, depending on how the way it drawn, it looked like he's young. He is young. And Marty he runs into Needles, and Needles wants to borrow something of Marty's that he needs, and Marty's like, "You got to pay me for it," and it breaks. They break it. I'm not gonna spoil what it is, but it breaks, and Little do you know, Needles is like, okay, now you got to go get a new one, or I'm gonna bust you up. And Marty's like, wait a minute, why should I get beat up for something that was mine in the first place? And that is where you start seeing things come together, where Marty realizes that he realizes that Needles kind of pulls that calls Marty that famous word that we all know Marty doesn't like to be called. Bakak, bakak. And of course, nobody calls me Needles. Nobody calls me Chicken Needles. Nobody. You see it clear as day, and it just brought back memories. Just great stuff. And we get to see Marty and Doc meet for the first time, and it was really cool. And it was a cool tale, a really cool untold tale. Because in the movies, we've never seen how Doc and Marty met. When did they first meet? So this was a really cool tale. The second tale was interesting on because of the fact we get to see Doc during the 1940s as a young man, and he's trying to get into he's a college student, and he gets wind of a secret project that's going on, and he wants in, and you'll never guess what the project is. And I'm gonna spoil it here. I have to. I think I have to. This story, Mr. Gale is basically showcasing that Dr. Emmett Brown, young man at that time, was a part of the Manhattan Project. What the hell? That blew my mind right there. I'm like, whoa. And I'm sorry I just threw that book down, but that was good stuff right there. First issue of Back to the Future. Mr. Bob Gale, sir, you did a great job with this. I very much enjoyed it. You haven't. It just shows that you how much you care for the characters of the Back to the Future, and I'm looking forward to reading more of that. That was great. Great Scott. That wasn't heavy. It was good stuff. If you are a Back to the Future fan, you're going to want to read this. If you're not, and you never seen the movies or so, because there are people out there that have not seen the movies, and that's blasphemy in my book. Get your asses out and go see that movie. Them trilogies, that's blasphemy. I'm sorry. You don't see, you come to me and you say, I've never seen Back to the Future. I get a little crazy with that. And Hurricane may come out on that one. So, yeah, do yourselves a favor. Don't say you've never seen Back to the Future around me, because Hurricane takes over very quickly and gets a little dangerous. But I digress. Other than that, Back to the Future #1 by IDW. Good stuff. And as always, guys, this is Mount Vernon Kid saying peace, one love, stay tuned, keep it real, guys. As always, I'll see you guys with another Comic Pull Spotlight. Take care.